To be completely honest, it's hard to describe exactly what For Honor is. Now don't get us wrong, the most intriguing thing is that For Honor comes out as a hybrid of a new style of fighting game with some team-based combat. We weren't sure what to think of For Honor when it was first introduced at E3, but now that we have our hands on it, it is bloody amazing. In the past few years, Ubisoft has had a reputation of making games look outstanding during presentations, but the company usually falls short when it comes to the actual release of the game. For Honor, on the other hand, is one of Ubisoft's gems in terms of sheer presentation. All of the heroes look stunning, and the design of each hero pays good homage to the respective cultures. You'll get a good sense of history and lore by simply looking at each hero. The Vikings display a certain level of savagery in their looks, and each hero appears as if they are bred for war, while the samurai mimic the very essence of the samurai's code of honor. The armor worn by each faction is made with brilliant detail. There are even parts where our jaws drop seeing rust and scratches formed around the knights and all of the different armor sets. The one thing that stood out the most in our playthrough are the animations each hero displays during battle. You can tell Ubisoft put their time and effort studying weapon combat. Duels feel like actual combat, and finishing off your opponent with an execution is always satisfying. It can get pretty exciting to see two sides charge into battle through sword clashing and people screaming. The opening cutscene immediately sets the mood of battle and delivers a very cinematic experience. All of this can be found throughout the game. However, there are hiccups here and there. You'll occasionally see some graphical glitches, but none that would get in the way of gameplay. The voice acting in the game, although delivered with some stellar performances, also have hit or miss moments throughout the game.
I wasn't going to be fighting anyone from inside a prison cell. But my friends, my daimyo, saw an opportunity and took it.
The narrative starts with a great catastrophic event that affects the three factions in the game. With their lands destroyed and food scarce, the Vikings, Knights, and Samurai go on an all-out war for resources, and as the tale goes, the fight would last for 1,000 years, where all factions have rebuilt and have begun to form an era of peace. This is where you're introduced to Patayon. Patayon leads the Blackstone Knights, where she aims to cause war between the three factions. There's potential in the story behind For Honor, but it falls short due to forgettable characters and some cheesy cutscenes.
Leave the palace to Seijuro. The others can fight for the scraps.
Who do you think you are?
War. I am war.
The campaign of For Honor serves more like a tutorial than a full-on campaign. While there is a full campaign with story and even co-op to play with friends, For Honor struggles to immerse you in the story. A majority of the missions you undertake are pretty tedious, and you'll find yourself in some missions that are quite enjoyable, but overall missions are simply a chore to complete.
It wasn't the strangest defense I'd ever taken part in.
The fun parts of the campaign are those where you fight one-on-one against an enemy boss, but most of the time it felt like playing a complicated version of Dynasty Warriors with repetitive objectives. Each mission in the story will give you the ability to choose the difficulty, which in turn gives you experience points to unlock abilities to be used in the campaign mode. For Honor prides itself in its controls dubbed the Art of Combat. Put simply, after targeting your opponent, you use either your mouse or your right analog stick to position your weapon left, right, or above your character. This simple mechanic allows you to block incoming attacks as well as attack in that certain direction. It's a simple mechanic that works wonders with the game. bringing the art of weapon combat to the palm of your hands. Though you're just using your right analog stick, each slash, stab, and grab you do to the opponent feels like it has impact. This new mechanic doesn't have a huge learning curve, and it isn't as complicated as most fighting games out there. However, at the same time, this new style of play isn't Dynasty Warriors either, so strategy, caution, and planning are required if you're to win duels.
You lost Zone A.
There are different ways to play in multiplayer, and all of the modes contribute to the faction war, a metagame where you'll initially choose a side to fight for. Supporting one of the 3 factions gives you the ability to deploy war assets to help your faction win over the map. The map consists of 3 separate areas: the north, which is home to the Vikings, the west where the knights reside, and the east where the samurai stay. Each faction war is broken into seasons in which 5 rounds of battle will take place. Whichever faction takes the most territory in a given round gains rewards. In order to win war assets, players must participate in the war by playing any multiplayer mode. In addition, maps in For Honor change depending on who owns the territory. There are 4 multiplayer modes in For Honor. Dominion, which is a capture the zone map with minions present on the battlefield. Elimination, which has 4 players battle it out without the worries of capture points. Brawl, which is a 2-on-2 mode, and a 1 versus 1 mode called Duel. All modes can both be played either against players or AI bots. We want to specifically give kudos on how For Honor does an excellent job with the bots added in the game, and at times these bots will pose a challenge as if they were real players. Unfortunately, it could be a double-edged sword, as enemy bots replace comrades who decide to abandon your game early, and they sometimes become the deciding factor if your team decides to either work together or simply be overpowered by the AI. Each faction has different classes with different playstyles. Even though they control or fight differently, their purpose remains the same. Ubisoft has already announced that there will be more heroes to be added in the future for free, but for now, we have 4 main classes to choose from. The Vanguards are the most balanced heroes. The Assassins, pure offense. The Defenders possess a huge health pool and are built for defensive combat, while the Hybrids are heroes that combine 2 traits into 1 character. Character customization has a part in the game where you can change the aesthetics of a given character, and as you level certain characters up, you'll unlock new aesthetics for that specific hero. There are weapon upgrades and loot that affect combat abilities as well, which drastically affect your playstyle. As a side note, different heroes also boast different kinds of feats, which are similar to kill streaks in Call of Duty and are unlocked as you achieve objectives in a match, and new ones are unlocked and can be equipped as you level up particular heroes. Unfortunately, For Honor does have its share of problems. One of the most frequent issues we've encountered are these moments where the game either looks for a new host or tries to refresh when a player decides to drop in the middle of a match. Also, players should get used to the waiting because For Honor will take you through a lengthy process of loading screens and countdown timers between matches. In addition, if there aren't enough players in the lobby, you'll have to choose the mode you want to play in again. It's good to see stats in the beginning and at the end of the match, but the downtime starts to take its toll as you play more and more matches. We are impressed at Ubisoft's work in creating a new way to play video games in terms of weapon combat. As majestic as the game looks, the core factor that makes For Honor a fun game is the art of combat system. The campaign mode might be lacking and there might be hiccups in the game here and there, but clashing swords with other people online is extremely satisfying. Ubisoft has already announced that the future content of the game is free for everyone aside from a few aesthetics. But if you do choose to pick up a weapon and charge into the battlefield, For Honor does a good job making you feel like a warrior in battle.